primer gun. This is in terrific shape in comparison to your typical primer gun. And the way that this would work when spraying primer with PPS is you take the gun, hold it like so, push it down, pick up the gun, turn it over, and you're ready to spray primer, okay? Primer application is usually done with this size cup or the new midi size cup. This holds 6 ounces of primer, this holds 13.5 ounces of primer. This is becoming more and more popular, and I really got on your salespeople about selling it because when you mix sealer for multiple panels, it's only one coat application, right? So in most cases, this is too small for a sealer application, and they're mixing up only about 10 ounces of sealer in this, so they're wasting half of that
What's
cup.
the number on those three sizes?
This is the 16314 for water, 16114 for solvent. This is 16122 for solvent and 16322 for water. And this is the 16,000s, the most popular size, and the 16301s for water. Okay. All right. So I need my volunteer. Thank you for volunteering, Corey. There's your respirator. Corey has never sprayed primer before, am I correct, Corey?
I've never sprayed anything before.
Okay, but I'm going to show Corey with Dennis's help because I can adjust this gun somewhat, but you've adjusted this gun before, correct?
It should be pretty close.
Okay, it should be pretty close?
Pretty close.
So you would say that this is set up kind of how you would spray primer with it?
Pretty close.
Okay, great.
Last I checked those.
Okay. All right. So Dennis says that this is pretty much set the way that he sprays primer, and that's what I typically do. I walk into a body shop and I don't really monkey with the gun. I say, has anybody recently primed with this gun? They say yes. And then I say, okay, so this is pretty much set up the way you like to spray primer? Yes. So then what I do is I typically put up a piece of masking paper or I grab a panel and I clean it off. And I test how they like their primer gun to spray. All right? So this is how Dennis likes to spray. We're going to test the pattern down here.
Really put more fire
Usually about 10 inches away. Okay?
though. Yeah, okay.
So
Look at the banana.
one thing that we noticed is this gun was cleaned. Obviously, if you look at the gun is like new almost, right? But because it's metal and primer etches to metal, what happened when I pulled that trigger?
Big chunk.
Big chunks came out. So if that's in a body job, I now have to let that dry and sand those chunks out of it and then reprime, okay? So that's one reprimer application because there was dried primer up inside the fluid tip that shot out, okay? But that's the pattern that at 10 inches away, that's the pattern that this gun sprays, okay? If you'll notice, it's got a decent oval pattern. It's not that bad, okay? So if our repair on this car is about that big, and we spray it at 10 inches away, what typically a technician will do is he will come across like so, and then he'll drop down and he'll spray like that, okay? So that's typically how a technician sprays an application of primer. Now Dennis, I am going to have Corey adjust the gun, okay?
Sure.
But I need you to instruct him.
Oh.
I want Corey to spray. Are we okay airwise? Is everybody good? I need to make sure everybody's good. All right. Airwise, I need Corey to prime that. And I really don't want overspray much outside that.
Yes,
Okay? So can you instruct him how to set up that gun?
I'll go, you can make it go without.
That's about where you can get.
Big old bull.
All right, so do me a favor and prime that for me. Okay. It's not bad. It's not bad, right? All right, so we got overspray out here, right? Okay. All right, now I want to prime something a little bigger. Okay. Actually, we'll keep it over this side here. I'm going to prime something a little bigger. So you saw the way Dennis was adjusting it in, correct? I want you to adjust it back out.
I'm halfway there, of course. It should be, yeah.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do is pull the trigger here and then just move slowly across here, okay? So you've got half of it sufficiently covered, right? So you want to drop down then and cover the other half. Okay? Alright. So what you guys just witnessed is typically how a technician with that style primer gun would have to prime. He will come across the top and really he would start up here. So a technician, and I'm not going to spray, but a technician would start up here and he would come across here first, then he would drop down 50%, he would come across here, then he would drop down 50%, he would come across here, and we would have three laps basically across here, which then would create wet overspray here and wet overspray here all the way across this, so it would take longer to dry. All right? Okay. So let's unhook this. We're going to come in here and show the cleaning of this gun. So the reason why PPS took off so well, especially for painters, painters are busy guys. They usually have a backlog. There's 3 or 4 or 5 body men feeding one painter work. He's got one booth. He needs to get in and out of there as fast as possible. So when he goes to clean the gun, hold that a second, Corey. Should always instruct whoever's cleaning the gun to wear gloves to clean the gun. Okay? So whoever's cleaning the gun would unhook, he would unhook it from the PPS cup. Beauty of PPS is we cap that off and it's ready for use again. It's not sitting there drying out in a cup. And then we have a long metal throat here on the adapter, and then we've got all metal parts that we need to clean out in the gun. So we're going to fill that up with thinner. We're going to let that run through. Corey, I had some paper towels in there. I think they're sitting on the drum, maybe. Could you grab a couple of those? Got a leaking bottle. Okay, so I'm at spray number 2. I'm at spray number 3. Would you guys agree that that's still gray in color? Okay. This is why painters using this style gun throw them in the gun washer, because they can't stand standing here doing this. But then what happens is all of the soft seals inside the gun get saturated with lacquer thinner instead of just the part that sprays. All of your air channels get... Corey, would you agree that's still not clear?
Yep. When you're done, Brian, we'll start the gun washer.
Do you agree that we're still not clear? Again, it's better than a quart, but we're getting to the point now where we're finally starting to get almost clear. It's still a little bit gray, but honestly, this is where a technician stops cleaning, just like Dennis did. And then when you pick it up next time and you go to spray with it, you get chunks, okay? And then a tech will take the air cap off, and because this requires a wrench, which you can't find, he'll just wipe this off, and he'll never clean that needle off. Right, Dennis?
Absolutely.
Never. Obviously, you didn't clean the needle off last time. I'm not picking on you. I'm saying that you are just like everybody else, right? Everybody else pretty much cleans the primer gun that way, all right?
Gun wrench lasts about 1 week.
You got it, or it gets lost. All right, so we used over 4 ounces of lacquer thinner, and we're going to create 4 ounces of waste, which is much, much better than a quart, right? PPS definitely helps with waste. Okay, so Corey, I'm going to go in and I'm going to show you how to adjust this gun to spray the primer properly, all right? Okay, so when you go to put the gun on, the best way to hold the gun is by the head. Okay. So you get it centered over top of there, push it all the way down, and give it a half turn to lock it in. You want to, yep, push it all the way down, and turn it, lock it in. Okay? All right. So we can see clearly that the primer has now gotten down into the throat of the head and we're ready to go in and spray. The gauge, again, is one of the most important training tools to help a technician understand that the purple area is for air consumption, and once you set it to that, then when you pull it, it'll drop down into the green or compliant zone, which is 20 pounds, okay? When you pull the trigger with this gun, set it right there in the purple zone, okay? The way that the gun is adjusted now, that will be the proper way to set it, and then you will pull the trigger and it will drop into the green, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to do pretty much the same thing. We're going to draw a little bullseye there, we're going to have a repair size there, and maybe even go a little bit larger, okay? Alright, so I want to spray one good coat of primer across the large repair, okay? So what you would do is the fan has really only 1.5 turns, actually one full turn, 1.5 turns. That's all the adjustment that the fan has. So if I want to spray something large, then I'm going to open up that fan pattern full 1.5 turns, okay? And I'm going to back this out until I see at least 5 threads on my fluid adjustment. Okay, so this is my fluid, this is my fan, this is my gauge. Every time I monkey with these, I always want to reset my gauge right in that purple lane, okay? So now I'm going to test my pattern. I'm going to come down here, I'm going to measure my 10 inches away, and I'm going to spray my pattern. I've got a good, easily, probably a good 10-12 inches of spray pattern, right? So if I've got a 10-inch repair to do, I'm going to hold it about 10 inches away, and I'm going to pull the trigger and I'm going to come across that repair, okay? Once, come stop, and then back over, okay? Okay? So once you would get used to how to spray with this, what you would do is you would get it about 10 inches away and you would move a little bit slower across that repair, okay? Full trigger, okay? Pulling at half trigger, what happens is you're starving the gun a little bit for primer, and that's why when you see it go on there, you're pretty thin, okay? So if I've got a repair like this, like we had over here, now we just sprayed that full trigger. Do you guys smell a whole lot of primer? Did you guys see a whole lot of primer going out into the air? Okay? So if I want to spray a repair like this, I'm going to come across and I've pretty much got it covered in a coat, okay? From top to bottom. If I wanted to cover it completely in one coat, just back up a little bit more. Okay, and I've got it covered in one coat. So now I've got nice even primer from top to bottom, and it's going to dry from top to bottom nice and evenly. I don't have any overlaps, okay? When you want to dial in, which is very common on bumper repair, you've got just some really small areas that you need to prime. What you would do is you would shut your fan totally off, because if I only need an inch of primer, I don't really need a fan, okay? So we're going to take and we're going to shut the fan all the way off until it stops, okay? We're also going to shut the fluid all the way off until it stops. Now we are going to need some fluid to spray, but I want to take it in so that I can measure coming out about how much I'm going to need, all right? So right now both of those are off. If I pull the trigger, the only thing that's going to come out of the gun is air, all right? But I do need a little bit of fluid to prime those spots. They might be just chips in a hood, all right? So I'm going to open this up, one full turn, okay? And a quarter, all right? Now, if you noticed in the video, whenever you monkey with these and you make the fan pattern smaller and you make the air consumption smaller, you want to reset this gauge, because right now I'm a little high as far as what I need. So I'm going to set that right down on the purple-green line, okay? And now you can come down here and test your pattern. And you should be able to spray. I'm even going to take another half. I'm going to take that quarter back on my fluid. So now you should be able to prime that pretty easy. You can get in about, you don't even have to be 10 inches away. You can get in, yep, that's a little bit close. Right about there. Okay. You can even take it in another quarter of a turn. You can almost get just inside that circle. Okay? Have very, very little overspray out here. So the importance is to a body technician is that he can prime exactly where he needs it. Very, very little overspray. Or he can get one nice wet coat across any given repair without having your overlaps. Now why is that important? When you have overlaps, I don't know if you guys can see it from back there, but I've got more coverage here than I do here, and it's a little thin in the middle here. This, when it's set up, I really shouldn't be able to see the majority of this circle. I've got a sufficient amount of primer with one coat. Would you guys agree that when, well, Dennis, if you've talked to guys in body shops, primer's usually applied in at least 2 coats, 2 to 4 coats. Your new direct to metal is a 4-coat primer, correct? The new PPG direct to metal waterborne primer? I think it's a 4-coat primer, okay? So sufficiently in 4 coats with this gun, this repair is going to be completely flat. Your overspray is very minimal. So we only have to mask about 1 inch outside of our repair area and not have to worry about wet overspray. That's very important because primer doesn't come off of any surface easy at all. You would have to clay that surface, okay? So it would require less bagging of the car and so on. So if you just needed to prime that tab, you're pretty much set right now to prime that tab. Just prime that tab. You guys see any overspray floating around? Right? Okay? Pretty simple. So why is it important now for the body tech to be able to prime like this? When this primer coat is dry from top to bottom, he'll have to do less blocking across the surface to get that flat. The more overlaps that he's going to have here, priming this application, the more ripples he's going to create as he sands because he's going to get high, low, high, low. He's going to break through some areas before he breaks through some other areas. Okay?
That's what I was going to say. Why you give me the
Okay, so again, benefits of PPS, because it's important when you guys are selling to the customer this primer gun that you help them understand the benefits of PPS because the customer's got to use PPS when they buy this primer gun. All right? There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If he's a steel cup user now and he buys this gun, he's now a new PPS customer. Okay? All right. Benefits of PPS are that product is now saved, it's seal tight, and you're going to experience the full 2 hours of pot life. And pot life means before it gets hard in the cup. If it's sitting in one of these or in one of your DOX cups, right? It's getting a skim over top of it, it's drying out prematurely, and it becomes unusable. This amount of primer is enough to do a good 8-10 softball size repairs, and it could be used by multiple body men in the shop before it's completely used up. When it's sitting out like this, pretty much the first guy who mixed it is the only guy who gets to spray with it because it gets ruined sitting out in the open. All right? So when you go to clean this primer gun, as you can see, there's gray pigmented primer in the throat of the gun right now. So we are going to let that first flush of thinner run through. What is the color of our throat of our gun right now?
Like a hazy gray color.
Hazy gray, right? Second flush of thinner run through.
Now, did you open your valves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from how we had it set in there. Yep. All right. Getting clean?
Yeah.
Okay. Third flush of thinner. How are we looking? Got a little the center, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Make it a little bit of thinner. One more flush this way. What I like to do then is take that same paper towel, put the thinner out on the paper towel, check for gray. At this point I don't have any gray. I'm going to wipe the air horns off with that paper towel. I'm going to wipe the top of the, if I had any primer get on my gloves, then I might take that same thinner and wipe the fingerprints off, because this is not going in the gun washer and we want to keep our gun looking like new. Okay? Then we're going to pull the trigger back and we're going to push in these ears and we're going to pop the fluid tip off. We're going to take that same paper towel that we tested to make sure the primer was off, and we're going to wipe the needle off to get the primer residue off. We're going to pick up the gun, hold the trigger back like so. As you can see, if the gun's in good shape, we don't have any primer back into the gun body itself. We're going to take the same tip, we're going to get it lined up on the head of the gun, and we're going to snap it back in place. We used less than 1 ounce, about a half ounce of thinner to clean that gun, okay, in half the time, easily half the time, all right? And the gun's like brand new, again. And we're not going to have any chunks spitting out, because every moving part of that gun, the needle is cleaned, and we've cleaned out the fluid tip, and we can literally look in there and make sure that it's clean, okay? So, no chunks, all right?
No, nothing.
No, nothing, right?